think I'm optimistic about the influence of Asian culture and Asian people in the whole world. I think when I first moved to New York and the US, I think Asian culture was not that cool and it was not popular. Like kimchi was not a thing. Like right now, I think with the rise of K-pop and
Yeah.
also just all the other Asian country, I think we can really let the world see who we are and appreciate our culture and heritage. So that's something that I'm the most excited about in the next 10 years.
You're listening to Foreign Founders. We tell stories of immigrant and first-gen entrepreneurs, investors, operators, and ecosystem builders. And on the show, you hear incredible stories that often go untold.
Founded in 2019 by Shanghai-born, New York City-based millennial entrepreneur Maggie Zhu, Us2 Tea is a premium farm-to-cup purveyor of Taiwanese tea. After noticing a lack of widely known and distributed Asian-owned tea brands in the US, Zhu founded Us2 Tea with a clear mission to make Asian tea culture and Asian culture at large more accessible to discerning millennial consumers and tea lovers at large. All teas are cut as loose leaf teas, then packaged in premium sustainable 100% corn fiber tea sachet, which can be conveniently brewed up to 3 times. And they've been featured in Forbes, Bon Appetit, Bloomberg, Eater, and more. Welcome to Foreign Founders.
Thank you so much for having me, Andy.
Yeah, the first question I would love to ask is, what was your background? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I've been everywhere pretty much. So I grew up in Shanghai, China, and then I went to San Francisco for art school, college, and then after that, I moved to New York to work and started my own business for 11 years, and now I'm in LA. Astuti is actually my first business, but I used to work in like advertising agencies, design studios in New York, and before Astuti, I was working at like an art tech startup, which I was like the lead designer there, and I pretty much helped them build the brand, and we got acquired after 3 4 years. So I had some stock option, and I just catch up all my stocks, and then pretty much started Astuti at that time.
That is not a common path from going to design, advertising, to creating a CPG product, right?
Yeah.
Um, were there anything like early in your life that you've always wanted to be involved with tea or CPG or any of those types of products?
Actually, no. So I never really wanted to start my own business because my mom was an entrepreneur, and growing up, I see her starting her own business, and I see how stressful and hardworking she has to be in order to be successful. So I told myself, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna be a graphic designer, live my life. Like it happened at the right time, so I kind of like have this drive. So I started the business, but yeah, it was never planned in. I wanted to become like an artist, like fine art, paint, just living my life, but it's not what it is right now.
Life had other plans. So, what was
Mhm.
your mom like? What was her business?
So she started in the medicine space. So she sell like wholesale to like the hospitals and like the government in China. And then she made some money, and then she brought me to Shanghai. And she started her own hospital in Shanghai. It's like a cosmetics hospital, and then she does like real estate investment. So she does a lot of things all
Yeah,
together. So yeah, she had a
that's
really busy
incredible.
life.
So you've always basically grew up seeing that. I'm guessing there are moments where you're almost raising yourself because your mom was like working for building the business, hospitals, selling equipment to hospitals, real estate, all that stuff is like very competitive space too. Um, so, and for you, you basically said, That's not a life I wanted to take. But then you went from Shanghai, where you grew up,
Mhm.
to SF, and then to New York. What was the path there? What changed? What started to change? I guess.
Yeah, so you're 100% correct. My mom was never home. I was raised by my grandma. So I really miss her being around. And that's why I told myself, I was like, when I grow up, I kind of want to be around my kids. But, life is not like exactly what it planned out. I went to an international high school in Shanghai, so I have to study abroad because I can't take the Chinese high school exam. So pretty much that was always planned to go abroad to study in college. So after 5 years in San Francisco, San Francisco is very tech focused, and I am a graphic designer, so I always loved New York because New York is like the center of art, and I love fine art. So that's why I moved to New York because of that. And living in New York after 11 years is just I feel like I've seen it all. I've been there, done that. So that's why it's like the transition kind of just like when life happens, it kind of like leads me into the places that I want to go. So I think that's also part of like the entrepreneur spirit. Is like if I want to move somewhere or do something, I just go for it. So there's not much to think about for me personally. Yeah, so that's pretty much like where it leads me to all these different places. Yeah.
And in the intro, basically said you figured out that there's not enough Asian representation at stores, and that's
Mhm.
why Us2T came to be. Can you tell that origin story? Where were you? What were you doing that made you realize, oh, I could potentially create something in this space?
Yeah, so I never really thought about starting like a tea brand, but I always wanted to when I started like, planning my business like so I was thinking, oh, I want to do consumer goods, CPG, but I didn't know. But at that time, I realized that like every single time when I go back to Asia, all my friends in America want me to bring good tea for them. That and I personally always bring tea back. Like I travel really light, but all my suitcase is full of tea because I can't really find the real good quality tea here
Yeah,
in the US. And if you go to like the stores in Chinatown, those are not super like premium tea. But if you go to
interesting.
like the tea space, it's really overpriced.
Yeah,
So like I can get like better pricing in Asia. So and then I went to the supermarket. I remember I went to Whole Foods and like Trader Joe's and all different like local supermarkets. I was just looking at the tea aisle, and then I realized like all those tea are owned by British or American. There's like a Japanese Asian tea brands there, but they've been
hmm
around for like hundreds of years. So and that's the only Asian tea brands. But I don't really drink Japanese tea. I drink like more Chinese Taiwanese tea. And then I realized like, oh, why there's no like more like Asian owned brand, you know, in the States. So I was like, you know what? I've been drinking tea my whole life. I know what good tea is, and I'm Asian. I think I can represent my culture. It's very authentic. So I was like, you know what? Let me try this. And it's more because of the mission, to be honest,
yeah.
rather than like creating the tea brand to make money for me personally.
And when you were doing that research that there's British companies that do selling tea at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, American companies, Japanese companies, so why weren't there any like Chinese or Taiwanese companies?
I thought about this actually. I think this is a good question, but from my own understanding, because living in America, I think in like for 15 years now, I look at America as from like a third person's perspective. Uh, and I think the reason why there's no like Chinese or Taiwanese owned brand is because earlier in the days when our parents or like the earlier immigrant generations when they come to America, they're trying to pretty much just like feed their children, and like I don't think they had a lot of money, and also I think back then in at least in China, I think we didn't know what branding was. Like, so our parents was their one goal was to feed us and send us to good school. And marketing, branding, it was not a thing in our, parents' generation. And also I think because there's a lack of cultural confidence there, because we're immigrants in the US and majority of them they're not really familiar, and we want to fit into the American culture. At least, like, earlier in the days, even for my friends and millennials, when they grow up, they want to fit in, right? I didn't grow up here, so, but I heard a lot of stories. So I think there's like a lack of cultural confidence. That's why there's not a lot of like kind of like movement around tea space or even any Asian space. I mean, except for like, Panda Express, but that's not real Chinese food. If you go to like Taiwan or China, like I never had orange chicken in my whole life before I come to. So, it's like the flavor is tailored towards to American flavor. So I think that's why. But I think for our generation, we're more confident about our skin and like our culture. And I learned branding in college. That's what I studied, graphic design. So I know how to do this. And there's like opportunities for in social media. So I think that's why the shift is happening right now.
Yeah. With us to tea, when you were starting, so you found this problem, you were walking through Whole Foods, it was a good opportunity. What happened next?
Yeah, so I next I have to figure out like what kind of tea to sell and where to import the tea from. So originally I wanted to import it from China, like mainland China, because I'm Chinese and we have a lot of varieties. But after doing a lot of research and going back and talking to the tea farmers in China, like I realized that like uh, it's really hard to import a Chinese tea to America because of the pesticide level is too high, and a lot of farmers they don't want to, they can't just they will fail the FDA test. And I did so much research, even like if they have like organic farms and stuff, but it's still really hard to scale up. So I was actually really bummed. And then at that time, I was like, let me go to Taiwan to do some branding research. And then I flew to Taiwan and I tried by accident. I remember it was like a summer, and then I tried like the Assam black tea at this like street stand, and it was the best black tea I've ever tried in my whole life. And I was like, oh my God, like what kind of tea is this? So I asked the person who's selling the tea, and it turns out he's a tea farmer. So he said it's homebrew and there's no sugar or anything in there. So I was like, and then at that time I was like, oh, like, why don't I just import tea from Taiwan instead? Because it's also like an Asian country, and like, I'll figure out the Chinese tea later. So that's how the journey started. And I flew back to Taiwan 3 times, and each time I stayed there for like almost a month, and
This
pretty
was
much
2019, right?
yeah, 2019. So I went there like going back and forwards because it's like 2 hours flight from Shanghai to Taiwan, and it was super easy. So I just pretty much figure out the sourcing and literally just one step, like trying to figure out like all the packaging, like fulfillment, FDA, and all that stuff. And then officially, I think we ship out the first product from Taiwan to US in around like January 2020,
Wow. Okay.
right before COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And these were samples, or this was like a full, like, what did you do with, so you had the farmers that you found
Hmm.
and work with. You did all the packaging, all the FDA process.
Hmm.
And in January 2020, that was when you got like a full shipment of
Yeah,
tea, us two tea, the first us two tea.
yeah. Like
Um,
pallets of like us to tea, like full on product ready to sell. Yeah, and at that
okay.
time we haven't really launched the product yet.
Yeah.
We did a lot of like branding research at pop up markets and stuff, but yeah. So that's pretty much like the first product.
And how did you sell those, that first couple pallets?
Yeah, we directly went to consumer, like D2C, direct to
Yeah.
consumer. So at first we didn't spend money on ads, but it was mainly from social media, word of mouth, and I tried to gather a lot of like customers beforehand through like newsletters and stuff and friends, family. So my first customer was actually one of my friend, and he bought the us to tea when they launched. And then when we get the real first customer, like a stranger, I remember it was like after 10 days actually, and someone that I don't know who ordered the tea. So yeah, it was just a lot of like social media marketing back then.
Got it. And that person also found you, that stranger found you through social media, just random
Yeah,
video or
I,
anything
I
that you were
think it
posting.
was our Instagram, and I think he like kind of just like followed us, and he's like, "Oh, I've been looking for good like Taiwanese tea because I've been to Taiwan before," and then he
Yeah.
just saw us and then ordered online.
And can you tell a little bit about like what kind of people are actually seeking for a product like Us2T that you've noticed over the last, 6 years that you've been in business?
Yeah. So majority of our customers are actually Caucasian. I think I would say like 65% are Caucasian and 35% are Asian Americans.
Was that a
But
surprise to you?
oh no, we always tailors to because of first one like first of all like America like there are more Caucasians than Asians just in terms of population. But two, I think a lot of Caucasians are like very cultured. They've been to Asia, they travel to Asia, or they have Asian girlfriends, or they have Asian boyfriends. Like so, they understand the culture, and so they're always looking for like tea options. And there are a lot of like tea drinkers like they actually already been drinking tea. So this is like they're looking for something that has high quality and convenience. But for the Asian American, I think it's more for the people who grew up here. They didn't the young millennials and Gen Z. They didn't know how to do the kung fu tea brewing, so
Mm.
they love tea. So they kind of like a lot of Korean American love sour tea, I think, and then Taiwanese American. But so like I think it's very interesting because our brand we want to build like a tea brand that serves all. So I think the demographic kind of like hit it like right on the spot. Yeah.
And bec- before doing Us2T, Maggie, you said that you didn't have experience running D2C or consumer products, but you wanted to do that. Are there anything that maybe founders who are listening that are thinking about or at the earlier stages selling their product that you can maybe get advice to?
Yeah, so I when I was working at the art tech company, we are also it's like a consumer brand, so I learned a lot at the startup. So my suggestion will be number one, if you haven't started, um, find like a consumer like CPG brands startups to work there. Like you will learn everything, especially early stage. And number two, if you already started, I think you should talk to other founders who are in the same space. Like reach out to like 50 founders in CPG space. And founders usually are very open and very willing to share their experience, no matter how successful they are, because they've been there. So I just go on LinkedIn and just like looking at all those like CPG founders, I literally called like just message all the founders and hey, can I like I'm doing this, can I ask you questions? Can I get like 15 minutes of your time? And you know what? One of the best things come out of it, one, you build the connections and they share a lot of like experience to you. And number two, I think I reached out to one founder. He built like a 8-figure CPG like protein bar brands, and the 15 minutes that I spoke to him, it saved me like I think like 2 years worth of my time. Yeah, so I think that really just talk to other founders in your space who are way more advanced than you. That's the best way to learn and grow.
As growing up in Shanghai, one of the things that I think the audience for this show really appreciates is what are some stories that you've had or your identity as like an immigrant helped you build a Us2T?
Um, I think is resilience. Yeah, I think. that we as an immigrant we sing a lot, and I think it's just the quality of like resilience. I think that will make you like go even further than all the other founders out there, because you're gonna face so many challenges every single day, and how do you like life is gonna hit you with like rocks and other things, and usually it comes in waves, and how do you get up every morning to
Yeah.
continue building your business and never lose that face?
Yeah.
I think as an immigrants, I think we all have that quality. If we can survive America, we can survive anywhere. Yeah.
um, and New York as well, right?
Oh yeah. If you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. For sure. New York really
um,
slapped me in the face. But that's when I grow the most. Yeah.
yeah. Um, are you ready for the last couple questions?
Yeah, I'm
The first
ready.
one, I know I get this a lot, and I probably don't even brew my tea right. What are some things that people can do, just whatever tea that they're doing, consuming at the right, like for the right taste?
Yeah, so actually it depends on the type of tea you're brewing. For example, if you're brewing like, more like green tea, flower tea, I think
Yeah,
try to keep it like maybe like 2 minutes. But if you're brewing like black tea or oolong or Baozhong tea, usually when you have the best flavor, it's like 3 minutes.
yeah,
I think if you have like a proper, just like, like the hot water steamer like at home, I think that should be enough. It shouldn't be like that complicated. I think if you use tea bag or loose leaf tea, um, just I think timing is very important, and then the temperature of the water is very important as well.
did that come into your design in the beginning where you're like, do I do loose leaf? Do I do bags? Like all these things, because there's pros and cons to all the things, right? Like what kind of decisions did you make that
Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's a great question. So the reason why we do tea bags are
yeah,
because one, me myself is a tea consumer, and the most annoying thing for me is to like wash the teapot every single time.
yeah.
And I live in New York. I don't have time to sit there and brew the whole tea. Like I want something quick and best quality and on the go. So I pretty much created this product for myself because
I feel the same way too.
yeah, right. And I'm just like I just want like, but the tea bags in the US they're all like tea dust. It's not real tea. It tastes so bad. So that's why you have to add sugar and mix. So I was like, I want the convenience of tea bags, but with the quality of loose leaf tea. So
Yeah,
pretty much that's why. And then also I thought, if we want to make tea culture cool and make it more popular for Americans, we need to help them to like, be familiar with the product. So it's really hard to teach them how to brew the 7 steps cold tea, and they already know how to use tea bags. So let's just start there first.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big teabag person. I feel guilty that I don't have a guideline or like anything, but I'm like, it's easier. I don't have to worry, but I always feel like I'm doing it wrong. So
Yeah,
I'm
but
glad you have this.
that's why we use the biodegradable tea bags. It's made of corn fiber because it's really bad. Like the paper bleach tea bag is really bad for your health.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What is in store for 2025 for us 2T?
Yeah, so two things. One, we're keep expanding in the US and doing more partnerships with like maybe some celebrities and like private membership clubs, and really trying to get more wholesales. And two, is something I'm personally very excited about is we're planning to launch S2T in Korea next year. So that's gonna take like 8 to 9 months to prepare, but I think it would be so cool for us to launch in the Asian market. And yeah,
That's amazing. I always close out the episode with asking founders, what are you optimistic about? And I feel like this is the perfect time because we're recording this end of the year and
yeah,
looking forward to the new year.
yeah. I love that question. I think I'm optimistic about the influence of Asian culture and Asian people in the whole world. I think when I first moved to New York and the US, I think Asian culture was not that cool and it was not popular. Like kimchi was not a thing. Like right now, I think with the rise of K-pop and
Yeah.
also just all the other Asian country, I think we can really let the world see who we are and appreciate our culture and heritage. So that's something that I'm the most excited about in the next 10 years.
Yeah. Well, Maggie, that was a perfect way to end the show. If people want to learn more about you, reach out to you. Maybe there's a CPG founder who's like, oh my gosh, Maggie is ahead of me. I want to reach out to her and really, ask you questions. Where would you want to send them? Where would you want to send potential customers?
Yeah, if they can just find us on Instagram and they can send me a DM or LinkedIn, like us2t.com. And, I'm always like open to talk to founders, to just share my experiences, a lot of like the mistakes I've learned. So other people don't have to do the same thing again. But yeah, I'm always here and feel free to reach out to me through email as well as Maggie at us2t.com. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for being on Foreign Founders. And I'm really excited to try your tea.
Thank you so much, Andy, and thanks so much for having me.